If you look at collapses of empires in the past, they all have to do with failure of the money, either through greed or corruption or deemed necessity for financing war. It's always the case. Deemed necessities for financing war was the breaking of the gold standard. That was exactly why. And Bitcoin does not allow you to corrupt it because everyone is a node. So you cannot get full consensus to corrupt the money. Someone will disagree. And we will see efforts to attack Bitcoin. We've seen it in the past and we'll see it again. But it is incorruptible. And an incorruptible money should let us break that cycle of collapse and rebirth. So this is how we break through the matrix.
Samson is a master at putting the game theoretic big picture together that places Bitcoin at the center of the global economy. He thinks Bitcoin will consume all value in the world faster than you may think, or even really want. In this video, we'll dive deep into how Bitcoin's immutability could be the key to ending financial tyranny. We'll explore how it's already withstood attacks from nation-states, like the China mining bans, and proved useful during times of government overreach, like the truckers' protest in Canada. How does Bitcoin really free us? And can it actually prevent the next economic collapse? Through this discussion, you'll discover how people are fighting back against surveillance, unethical controls, and oppressive monetary systems. We're witnessing a new kind of global rebellion, fueled by energy with cryptography as our weapon. But before we do that, I want to introduce our sponsors, Stampseed, the Orange Pill app, and Swan. Our partners are businesses and people that we respect and our products that we at Bit Intelligence personally use. You're watching 21 Voices.
People are brainwashed, like there's good money and there's bad money. Yeah. When you should be going after people doing bad things instead of going after money. If we monitor everyone's money, then we can stop crime. The next logical step is just monitor people's thoughts. So this is a really bad thing, and it's difficult to talk about too, because it sounds like I'm pro money laundering. I'm not. Like, follow law, but don't surveil to control people. Yeah. Because the Bitcoin network doesn't care. You had a nation state attack Bitcoin. You had China crack down on Bitcoin mining. Who suffered? The miners, the Chinese miners that invested in infrastructure, that built out hydro plants and facilities and bought transformers and all this expensive stuff. They suffered. Bitcoin doesn't care. It's a bit of ignorance and just believing that the system that they had for fiat must expand to everything and that it is possible. And the other part is ignorance, that you can't control information. You can try your best, but you just can't. You just look around and see what the CBDC adoption look like. It's zero, if not 0.1%. And if a heavily authoritarian country where you have limitations on internet access cannot do a CBDC, what makes you think the UK can do that? They'll try that, but it'll fail at the end. Yeah. People will use the money that's freely movable. So again, it goes back to the question, how much suffering are they going to put people through before they capitulate? And it could be a lot of suffering. If you look at Canada and the protests against COVID lockdowns and mandates and vaccination requirements, they're willing to put us through the ringer until we fight back. Yeah. But when we fight back, they capitulate. Yeah. So the question is really, where is that line in the UK? Where is do they have any moral standing? Like, we're not going to, wiretap everyone's phone and home computers and monitor their internet traffic and ban VPNs and freeze their bank accounts. There's a line that they shouldn't cross if you're representing the people, because the people don't want that. So it's really ethics at the end of the day. What is the ethical stance? The more they fight us, the more we wake up, or everyone wakes up. So it's a difficult choice they have to make. Which way are they going to go, and how far are they willing to take it? And I hope the answer is they're not going to go all out, because you're not going to stop Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be fine, but your people are going to suffer immensely. But the good news is we do see people fighting back. Like in the UK, you have the cameras that are meant to limit people's mobility, right? And people are just taking them out. If you look at the war, it's almost like I don't know if you watch anime, but there's Ghost in the Shell, and they have the concept of sustainable war, where they have a war just to drive economic growth, and it just doesn't end. And you make sure that not too many people die, and you can still manufacture arms and weapons and drones, and you just throw them at that war zone, and it just keeps going. The funny thing is that the government is not incentivized to take well-measured, careful responses. Overreach is actually the norm, and you see this again and again. It's just the default. So in Canada, we have Rebel News. It's a news group that always is very critical of the government, and the people in government often block them, and then Rebel News take them to court, and they always win because they cannot block ordinary citizens, especially journalists, and then they get fined. But who pays the fine? The taxpayers. The government writes the check paying the fine of the politicians that overreached or overstepped, and it's the case in many places. They overreach. You have to sue them. Another example is the registration of miners in the U.S., right? Riot and other miners had to fight back, take them to court. And then, of course, the miners won because that's clear overreach, and they have to pay a fine. But the fine is paid by you and me and everyone else. So we only lose because they can overreach, and they have no skin in the game, because if they're wrong, you pay, I pay. I mean, you could, if you want to assume malice, it's the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab trying to control the world and to implement their 2030 plan, population reduction, all these things. But it could also just be the nature of the human condition. The meme is, weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times, right? It's just a cyclical thing where you are born into a world of ease and luxury and energy abundance, and you feel some sort of guilt and you want to tear it all down unknowingly and return us back to the Stone Age where we build up back again. I mean, this is a common theme. If you look at the Matrix, that's the same thing, right? So it could just be our nature. And maybe this is the part where the strong men create good times again, but maybe it's going to happen again in a decade or a few decades.
Please bear with us for a quick message from our sponsors. These videos take a lot of time to make, and we've partnered with brands we trust like Stampseed and the Orange Pill app in order to get the funding we need to bring you these videos every week. Don't store your Bitcoin in cold storage without stamping your seed phrase on an indestructible titanium plate. Stampseed is fireproof, rust-proof, impact-proof, and easy to hide. It has no loose parts and will give you ultimate peace of mind that your Bitcoin is safe and sound for the long term. Click the link in the description below for 15% off your stamping kit. When I finally got Bitcoin, it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was the currency of the future, the only money that truly mattered. But there was a problem. I didn't know anyone else that thought like me. That is until I discovered the Orange Pill app. Suddenly, I was connected with a network of like-minded Bitcoin enthusiasts, right in my own city. The Orange Pill app is more than just a social network. It's a community of passionate individuals determined to change the world, one Satoshi at a time. This series is brought to you by Swan and created by Bit Intelligence. Remember to like this video and subscribe to both our channels for more videos like this every week. Thanks for watching.
If you look at collapses of empires in the past, they all have to do with failure of the money, either through greed or corruption or deemed necessity for financing war. It's always the case. Deemed necessities for financing war was the breaking of the gold standard. That was exactly why. And Bitcoin does not allow you to corrupt it because everyone is a node. So you cannot get full consensus to corrupt the money. Someone will disagree. And we will see efforts to attack Bitcoin. We've seen it in the past and we'll see it again. But it is incorruptible. And an incorruptible money should let us break that cycle of collapse and rebirth. So this is how we break through the matrix. Well, I'm biased, but I think the work of Jan 3 to engage at a high level is very important because it shows that nation-state adoption is happening. You can go to the government in the UK and say, well, here's what Jan 3 is doing in Colombia and Suriname, in Montenegro, in Argentina and Brazil, etc., and show them that this is happening, because it is happening. And if you can show exactly what is going on, they can't deny that Bitcoin adoption is happening at the country level. So they can stick their heads in the sand and ignore it, or they can start to pay attention. But I agree with what you're saying. We have to engage, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's much easier just to buy Bitcoin, go to the beach. But if you can only run so far, as Bitcoiners, we can keep fleeing. We can all move to El Salvador, but when everyone's a trillionaire in fiat money terms, what is the world going to do, right? They're going to drop a nuke, and we're screwed. So we have to expand. We have to go on the offense, and I believe that is what we are doing, and other people are doing. We're engaging with governments. We're talking to people. It's better to do that than to stage a protest when we're being locked down for the next reason. We don't really measure our success by creating new El Salvadors, because that's outside of our control. But if we can create an engagement and get something going, some small project, maybe a public-private partnership with the government of Colombia, where they're mining Bitcoin, I think that makes the network stronger. You're decreasing the chance of nation-state attacks through attacking the mining. And this is actually a battle being played out in the US. But at the same time, maybe we decentralize mining. We get more mining happening everywhere else in the world outside the US, because a repeat of China is simply hash rates all in the US, and they're going to try to control it or something. At least in China, they just said, get out. In the US, I think it's more likely they'll say, start censoring transactions. You're now responsible. That's more likely outcome. It's the more American authoritarian thing to do. We have to understand as Bitcoiners, someone has to do something, and it is us. There is nobody else. It's going to be us. And if you're just going to buy and hodl and do nothing, well, the network is not going to survive if everyone had that mentality. So, profit-wise, fiat mindset profit is probably better just buy Bitcoin and hodl. But for Bitcoin itself, it's better if we can start mining, and start mining outside of just the US and decentralize the hash rate. So there's a cost to defend the network, to defend Bitcoin, and to defend freedom.
The battle for freedom is and always has been an ongoing process throughout history, and Bitcoin stands at the forefront of this fight. It's weathered attacks from governments, resisted manipulation, and proven itself incorruptible. But this isn't just about Bitcoin surviving. It's about how we respond as individuals and societies. How much longer will governments and centralized powers push against it before they are forced to acknowledge its growing influence? How will the balance of power shift as Bitcoin adopts and spreads across borders and industries, decentralizing not only money, but politics and economic power? Bitcoin's resistance may be certain, but the real challenge lies in how we as a society choose to engage with it. Will we merely watch as governments continue to overreach and extend their power into every aspect of our lives? Or will we take part in peacefully dissuading governments from taking actions like these? Bitcoin offers a tool for freedom, and it's up to us to decide how far we need to go to defend it. Stay tuned and remember to subscribe for the latest recaps, insights, and films about all things Bitcoin. This is 21 Voices. If you want to watch another episode, try this one here.